Hi everyone, this is Kellyanne with Church Windows. We are going to go ahead and get started with today's webinar. Go ahead and get rid of that presentation on screen and bring up Church Windows. I already have donations open, so it would open quickly for us. Before we begin, today's topic is donation reports, and this is a series. We're starting kind of a new thing where we have a series of webinars over a week or over a couple of days. This is a series of 3 webinars that will look at different reports. Today we're just going to look at 3, the log report, the giving summary, and the deposit slip, and then Wednesday and Thursday, there are 2 other webinars that will cover some more of the donation reports as well. So today we're just looking at 3. If you're interested in more, then take a look at the other webinars. They are all free to sign up for and attend. If it's your first time attending, there was a little presentation, gave you some information about the toolbar, but you might have missed it. On your GoToWebinar toolbar, on the side, there's a little reddish colored arrow, and if you click that, that will decrease or minimize, my brain couldn't think of the word, minimize down that toolbar so you can see what I'm showing you on screen, and then to open it back up again you just click that little arrow, and you can also click on the top of the toolbar and drag it to whatever position you want it in on your screen. I also have Rachel in the room with me listening, and she's going to be answering questions for me. I'm not going to unmute people for questions because there's a question panel, and if you open that up you can type your questions in there. You might want to wait till the end of the webinar and see if, as I work through the material, I answer your question while we're looking at the material. And try to keep your questions topical to donation reports, just for everyone's time today. If you have other questions or questions specific to your data, sometimes those are best answered on a support call or an email. Then last, before we dive in, today I am using material from one of our workbooks to kind of guide me along. If you're interested in purchasing the workbooks or what I'm using, if you go to our website and look under Beginning, and then click on Training Workbooks. Here you'll see a list of there's some packages there, then a list of all our different workbooks. There's membership, and if we go down to donations, Donations 105, next to the last book, is what I'm using, or what this is taken from, and I am looking at pages 15 through 23, and that is in the most current book. So if you have an older book, the pages might vary just because of new things being added or things taken out. But let's go ahead and take a look. All right, so I'll close this, bring back up donations. First report we're going to look at is the log report. And this is very similar, I think, to the browse donation screen when you filter there, and you can filter to different columns and things and then print what you see on the browse screen. I think pretty much the log report option screen is almost the same. So here, to bring up this report, we're going to go to Reports Export along the top of the Donations module. And then under that, we're going to click the very first button, Donation Reports. And these are the 3 reports we're looking at today. So we'll look first at the Donations Log Report. I think this is probably one of the most powerful reports that can give you really detailed information. Pledge giving analysis is another. This report, though, shows you specific transactions if that's what you narrow down to. So here we see our log report. It tells us in the book, it's a detailed list of the donations posted in the software for a given time frame. And that's what your browse screen is. Also, if you go to Donations Browse, it shows you a list of your donations and what you've chosen to filter to on the Filter tab. Really, this is the same screen that you get when you go to that Filter tab. We can filter to any of these different things. There's 5 tabs across the top, and it's always going to open to the first tab. If you're following along in the book, moving along to page 16, the filter screen lets you look at, first we have, any of these items you want to narrow down to. We could narrow down to giver. We could do a pledge account, but first, if we wanted to do a pledge account, first we have to choose the account we use for that pledge. And we have to, I'm sorry, not the account, we have to choose the giver first before we can do a pledge. because it does show pledging is specific to givers. We could narrow down to a specific account. Any of these fields where I've entered anything and I see the X at the end of the line, if I want to clear that out, I can click that X to clear out what's there. As I'm typing, if I'm looking for a giver or in any of the fields where it's searching for things, if I start typing a name or even a giver number, notice the list, drop-down list, is showing me things it sees with SM or whatever I'm typing. And if we narrow down here, if you notice in the list we see one person's name showing in red, that indicates to me that this person has been marked inactive, or in the older program it was called terminated. We can also filter by check or reference number, the user, meaning the actual person who entered it, and that is recorded with your, when you have logins with a password and a login, there's a username associated with that, and you can look up by user. If you use batch codes, you can search by batch code. You can look by a giver number range. I'm moving over to the next column. Date occurred. Now, date occurred is the actual date that you enter when you go in to enter donations. Upper left here, donation date, that is date occurred. Let me go back here. Date occurred, again, is the donation date that you can choose when you enter the donation. Date posted, that would be the actual date it sees from your computer, which if you hover on your time in the lower right, you can see it's set to our correct date of Tuesday, March 6th. We can look by transaction number, a specific number or a range, or even a dollar amount. And along the bottom here, we can have some options of including batches with no batch codes. That's by default usually checked. Showing reverse transactions. Looking for entries that have a specific payment method. And then along the bottom, below this line, these items are not specific to the filter tab. You'll see if I click on the different tabs, the little check boxes along the bottom are available on the screen no matter which tab you're on. Showing subtotals, if somebody gave to multiple accounts, you could show the different amounts they gave and then a subtotal for that individual instead of just a grand total. Repeating transaction data, you can suppress that if you don't want it to show repeating items. And if you set your screen to, or set this to certain things you'd like, you can along the bottom save those selections as a default. You can't put in criteria and save multiple saved criteria like in membership searches or reports. But you can set up your log report screen to what you need, and most of the things when you save as default will save. Some always revert to going blank. You also can tell it you want it to start on a different page number here and show your long date and time. And then if you've entered filters and you want to clear them, you can click Clear Filter to clear those. Also along the bottom, you have the option on all of your reports to export if you'd like. And that means exporting it out into another program, to print, or to cancel what you've done. Let's go ahead and look at the second tab here, Group and Sort. Grouping and sorting, you can really change up how your report appears and what you're showing by grouping and sorting. So usually if people say something, they want something a specific way and they can't get it, usually it's by trying that group and sort and how you're grouping what you're sorting by, then grouping by it. Let's just look, if we're looking at giver, group by field 1, and we click print, we're looking at the entire year. Show you what the report looks like. Come on. I was just in here practicing a bit ago and the reports were popping right up. Did it minimize it? I think it did. What's going on? Where's my report? Church windows. I need to call tech. Let me close this and try again. That's very odd. It was coming up for me earlier. We have a little hiccup here. Let's try again. Print. All right, I think I need tech to come look at this computer because I practiced this earlier today and the report came right up, so I'm not sure why it's doing that. Let me try one thing. Maybe we had a Tuesday update in between when I practiced and came up here for the webinar. So let me go to Special Functions and Settings. Oftentimes, if your screens are not appearing, going into Special Functions and Settings within that module and then clicking Reset All Screens to Default Size and Location. Click that again because it didn't gray out like it's supposed to. Now it grayed out, meaning it accepted it, and I'm going to hit Save. And let's go try that report again. So I'm just going to click Print. There we go. I'm not sure what was going on there, but I'm glad that fixed it for us on this so you can see it. So here is just everything I've asked for. I haven't narrowed down to any particular group or sort. I'm looking at everything. I'm going to show you here. If you just want to see totals for your giver, we're already grouping by the fields, so it's showing everything for one giver and then moving on to the next. But if I click totals only, this is a common report people call and ask for, especially near the end of the year. We're starting a new one. We're third of the way, or not third, fourth of the way through almost. Okay. I don't know if we have a bug on this computer up here. What's going on? Let me try it again. I apologize. I've never had this occur during... I've had errors happen during a webinar, but not where I have to go reset my screen size. So I'm definitely going to talk to the programmers. All right. So I wanted to show you here what it looks like if I do totals only and click Print. Maybe I'm just not being patient enough. Let's wait and see. My apologies. I am not a technical guru. I'm better at helping you with using the program. There we go. All right. Close that one and tried it again and it came back up. Wanted you to see though how easy it is to get a report of just totals. You can just do the log report as is, go in and check totals only. And if you're sorting by giver, then it gives you the giver and the grand total for the year. All right. Let me remove that and let's look at the columns tab. Here we can choose exactly what columns will show on the report. You can choose the order they will appear in. There's arrows over to the right to change the order. I can click on an item and use the arrow to move it up or down. If I want to add more items or take things off, I just click on the item and there's arrows in between where I can move it onto visible columns or what will appear on the report. Or to move something off, I just highlight it and use the right-facing arrow to move it over to the right. Above the left side where it shows your available columns, if you have a lot of columns and you're trying to find something, maybe you want month, you can start typing the name of the column and it will find it in the available columns list for you, so you don't have to scroll up and down to find it. And it highlights it and then I can just move that over. So now if I click Print, maybe our report is coming up. Yay! Now we can see the column I added, donation comments. All right. Let's go ahead. Look here real quick at the last two tabs. We have fonts where you can change the fonts for your page header, the column headings, or the body text. I'll just show you. Maybe we'll change this one to 18. You can change the font type, the style, the size. You can add some different effects like a strikeout or underline. You can change the color and the script as well. Here, I'll just show you. I'm going to change some of these to a little bit different sizes. Maybe even change the font type and click Print. Come on. I apologize. I don't know why this is doing this to me when it was fine this morning. So here we go. We probably don't want, that's probably not a font you want, but I wanted you to be able to see the difference there, that you can change those font types and sizes and have it exactly what you want it to be. Or if somebody's changed it and you want it back to what the program came with, you can just click on Reset to Default and we're back to the Times New Roman. All right, I'm going to close this because I tend to talk too much and we have 5 minutes for those last two reports. But we're not going to, whoops, you know what, I forgot one tab on there for you. I'm sorry. Let me go back. And let's look at the last tab, Report Options. It's just two little things here. If you would like names to show the category that they are in members and people, you can check here to have it show whatever the code is for your different categories by their name. Or if it's a donation individual, you can have it include a D after their name to let you know that's a record that's over in donations. All right, let's move on to the other two reports. The next one is giving summary. Now, this is a lot. There's not as many tabs here. Giving summary, it gives you pretty much what it says, a summary of giving that came in for the year. You can narrow it down to a specific account if you like, or batch code. Any of the items you see here you could filter to. Let's just look real quick at, I'm going to pick a specific Sunday here and click print and let you see. It really is what it says. It's a summary. If the report comes up, it's a summary. I'll close it and try it again. There we go. Gives you a grand total, and if you use batch codes, you can break out into batch codes. Here we see there were none, but then it gives me a total for the batch, and then for each of the different giving accounts a grand total. So this is similar to list account balances, but that report is per month, not per a specific date. Here you can really narrow down to dates and see totals for accounts and dates. Now you could do something similar to this in your log report by how you choose to group and sort the log report. Log report, you can do almost kind of recreate any of the other reports, I think, in that. Well, not the pledge giving, but it's a very powerful report. But giving summary, again, back to this. I'm getting off topic. I have a cold. I'm sorry. My brain's not thinking as well as normal. Let me look back here I'm on page 17 of the book. Let's look. The filter shows how we can filter to a single date, which I just did for you and showed you that. Page 18 shows we could, if you use batch codes, you could filter to a specific batch code if that's all you want to see. So I'm going to click print. I'm going to look at the entire year for this though. Click print. Yay, and that one came right up. All I asked for this time was from the beginning of the year to the end of the year, the early batch code. That's all I want to see. So here we can see it's showing me any dates it found from beginning of the year until now. And it's showing me just things posted with a batch code of early, and then grand totals for each of the giving accounts within each of those. And then at the bottom, it also gives me a summary as well. Now, if we look at page 19, if we clear out that batch code, but we do the same date occurred range, and we just click print, here's what we see when we don't ask for a specific batch code. We can see there were some entries posted to a batch code of early, and then we see for the 14th they didn't use a batch code, 21st it was early, and so on. So now we're seeing for the entire year not just our early batch code, but any batch codes that were used. All right, now if we look middle of 19, it mentions the giving summary showing it for a specific account. So let's use the same date range, but if we were to look at just the general fund, here we can see instead of it showing us every single account that was posted to each date, it's just showing us a total for the general fund. Pretty easy. And at the top of page 20, it does remind you that the bottom of every report or the very end of each report does give you a summary showing you account and totals and exactly what the report was looking at. Page 20 mentions how you can also look by account, or I'm sorry, amount. If we type in for our amount $50 and click print, here we can see gifts of 50. Anywhere you're seeing something other than $50, this would mean if we see 150 that we had 3 gifts of $50. So that's all that means. When you're not seeing the exact $50, that means if we were to go look, we would see 2 people. Here we on the 21st, we have general fund 100. This means 2 people on that date gave $50, meaning totaling 100. All right. Let's look. I'm sorry, it is 20 after the deposit slip. Let's take a quick look at that. It's pretty easy. The fonts tab on the giving summary is the same as the fonts tab on the log report, so I'm not going to go into that again. But let's look at the deposit slip. There's two tabs here, options and fonts. So we're just going to look at the options tab. Fonts, same as the other reports. On our options tab, we can provide a deposit slip if your bank will accept one that's not, one of their pre-printed ones. You can print one from church windows. We could choose our date. And if you use batch codes and you only want a specific batch, you could enter that. And if you have different asset accounts, you could choose the one you'd like. If you want to include bank information, you can check off this little box here to include that. Down below, we have checked to include accounting entries and donations. Now, if I just include donations and I uncheck this, notice it sees all the entries right away and it shows them on screen. If I check include accounting entries, notice everything goes blank. That's because up here I need to choose my asset account so it knows what donations for March 4th to show for which asset account. So we may have had things going to multiple asset accounts over in accounting. So now that we pick our Huntington Bank checking, we see all of the checks pop over in the box to the right. Last few things up along the top right side, if you have cash and coins and you want to split those out to indicate how much cash and how much coin you have, you can check that little box and then enter those totals here. Here maybe we had $25 in coin and $4.25 in actual cash, which equals our $4.50. When you are producing your deposit slip, if you need to add a check that's maybe not in the system, or you need to delete a check for any reason, you can click Add Check, and here I could add check 123, put in the dollar amount, and this will print on the slip when I show you here in a moment. If I need to delete something, maybe it went to the bank a different day, I don't want it on this deposit slip, I can highlight it and click delete. It's not deleting a transaction, it's just deleting it from appearing on the deposit slip. Same thing if I click add check in the deposit slip screen. It does not add a transaction to donation that will show in browse. It's just adding that line to the deposit slip that you're then printing and taking to the bank or keeping for your files or whatever you're printing it for. All right. So let's click print, and now we see our deposit slip. Really nice slip that has our bank information, the checks, the cash and coins split up, total deposit, listing all of our checks. Pretty easy. All right. I don't see any questions that came in while I was going over all of that. I think really I've shown you all I wanted to show you in the book. Apologize if I went over a little bit there. Are there any questions? If you have any questions, go ahead and open up your question panel and you can type those right in there. It looks like Rachel already jumped out of the room. Maybe something came up, or she sees that there were no questions while I was showing things and figures I can handle the rest on my own, which I think I can, I hope. If you're in the middle of typing a question, you might want to hit enter and then go ahead and type the rest, and that way I won't close the room before you get to finish typing all your question in. All right, well, I'm not seeing any questions coming through. I think those reports are pretty commonly used and pretty easy to use, but hopefully you saw something new there. Apologies for the reports previews not coming up right away. I don't know what was going on there, but I'm glad we eventually got those to come up. Again, oftentimes Tuesday updates from Microsoft Windows does something to Church Windows and how they talk to each other, and it will minimize your reports down. And that's why I went to that special functions and settings and did the reset screen size. Usually that brings those back up to the forefront, but then we still had it going on some more, so I'm not sure what was going on, I'm going to have to tell the programmers or Jim or Van and have them make sure this is up to date. All right. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close the room for the day. Hope you learned something new. And if you didn't sign up for the other classes and you wanted to learn more about the different reports in Church Windows, then remember that you can do that. If you want to exit the room, you can go ahead and do that. I'm just going to, for anybody who might have missed at the beginning, I want to show them where you can access the webinars and the workbooks. If you click on beginning, the workbooks can be found under training workbooks. And the workbook I was using today was the Donations 105, pages 15 through 23. But over the next 2 days, there will be more webinars. Let me show you where those can be found. If you didn't get to sign up for those, if you go to beginning and then free online webinars, here, right at the top, the Donations Report 3-day series covers all reports except for statements, because that's a class all in itself. Here's where the report, or my brain and cold, it's making my head not work right. This is the class you're in right now that's about to end. If you wanted to sign up for the next 2 days, then here's where you can find those, Donations Reports 2 and 3. Looking at the other 2 buttons, but then there's also quite a nice variety of topics going on in March. Sign up for as many of those as you like. All right, I'm going to go ahead and end the webinar. Everybody have a great day. If you have questions, give us a call or email us. And again, thanks for attending. Bye.